Yeah, so um, you just saw E3 2005, and they talked. There's all this mystery going on about what this controller is going to be for Revolution, as it was then called. It was at Tokyo Game Show 2005, September 2005. They reveal what was for a while called the Revolution Remote, and there were so many weird rumors and scandals of fake leaks and prolonged hoaxes. The theft of a college student's renders, about what... It was a whole lot of drama. You had to be there for the time. Not much of it is archived. And there was, even going back to 2005, on G4, there were just... I remember, like, X-Play coverage of E3 2005. I remember Morgan Webb just flat out assuming that the Revolution controller was just going to be a controller with a touchscreen on it. And when I say a controller with a touchscreen on it, that is in the context of a world before smartphones and tablets as we know them now. So we're not talking about something even like the Wii U gamepad. We're talking about a controller like this with a little screen in it, more like a high resolution version of like the Dreamcast VMU memory card controller screen. And so Game Developer Conference, I mean, this is before live streaming was even a thing. So we were looking and this is before Twitter. So we're basically looking on a web page, like on IGN, where someone's basically tweeting before Twitter by just adding more stuff to a web page minute by minute of this press conference, this presentation being done by Miyamoto, and we see like these comments like, oh, the controller has been shown. The controller is held in one hand, and the second hand is for attachments that are connected by a cable, and we have no idea what they're talking about. And then a few minutes late, like about an hour later, the controller, it was actually, and this was late at night in Eastern Standard Time, even later for Tundex, because that would have been a couple of time zones over, if I understand correctly. I won't get specific. I don't want to say more than that. So we see this, the first reveal of... Oh, we gotta turn this sound down here. There we go. It's better. Wait. Okay. No gameplay shown, just sound effects of people acting with these prototype controllers. Okay. Alright, no, I just wanted to leave that for you to volunteer. Because there's some things you might want to say on your own stream to your audience that might be a little different than what you want to see while you're just cruising around, you know, being an audience member in other streams, so. Yeah, these are just game ideas that they're just miming and putting... Now, what he's doing there with the controller was not accurate enough to do what he was doing. That's something they would need Remotion Plus to add in. And look at how huge the prototype connector was on this version of the Wii Remote. There was a huge block at the bottom to attach the analog stick. Now, on the Nintendo Insider forums, I remember a lot of kids complaining that because of those few seconds of gameplay of someone miming shooting, that their parents said that they weren't going to let them have Revolution. I mean, there are various mini-games. Now, because of this right here, of just miming that swordplay, I remember a lot of people freaking out saying, oh no, Zelda's going to be ruined because now Zelda's going to have to be in first person if they're going to have motion control swordplay. I don't know why they would jump to that conclusion, but... I don't know why you jump to a conclusion like that, but... Now at that point, look, the lower controllers were labeled X and Y. The bottom buttons were labeled X and Y. The little notch on the top of the controller is a much sharper. There is no speaker at this point. At this point, they were saying that they weren't going to have rumble. No, like later on, there was a point where they were saying, once they added the speaker, they were saying, oh, we're not going to have rumble because we think the speaker is better than rumble, but they ended up having both. I remember like there was an EGN discussion about this, like an official like site published discussion, and what they were saying was, oh well, now we know why Revolution isn't going to support HD because they're doing this light gun stuff with it, and HD televisions can't just do light gun stuff, but they're doing false advertising because they showed them using it on like the TV, they show the television, and it's like a widescreen HD television. They're like, oh, Nintendo's doing false advertising because they're showing them using it on an HD television, but that won't work with this pointer stuff. And they're just making all these bizarre assumptions that they're assuming that they're using light gun technology, which they were not doing. And then they're saying that because we wouldn't display in HD, that it wouldn't work on an HD television, which was not the case. Now, it was the case that HD ended up being adopted much quicker by a larger number of people than Nintendo was anticipating. But yeah, so that's... And then about a week after this, there's a Shigeru Miyamoto and Reggie Fils-Aimé autograph signing at the Nintendo store. Oh, actually, it was advertised as a Miyamoto autograph signing. And Reggie just happened to be there. I ended up getting to meet Reggie, too, which was amazing. And I got it, that's a whole other story. So that's basically, now to give a little context, from that September, now it was that coming March, I think, Nintendo of America practically went behind Nintendo Corporation Limited, the parent company in Japan. They basically went behind Nintendo in Japan's back to secure a interview for Ubisoft of revealing the screenshots of Red Steel in Game Informer magazine. That being the first proper gameplay reveal, these screenshots of Red Steel. So for the first proper gameplay footage or gameplay screenshots of Revolution, and this is before the Wii name was out, being of a first-person shooter, a motion control first-person shooter, and they showed them, the screenshots they took of this photo shoot they did in the Ubisoft offices of the people from Game Informer playing the game. Red Steel, whatever problems it had, the limitations of the controller tech did not help. Red Steel was a game that needed, honestly, if we had the Motion Plus built into it from day one, I think the nature of the games and the nature of the library of games would have been significantly better. Because a lot of what people were imagining Wii being like wasn't really realized until Wii Motion Plus came out a few years later. Yeah, it was a cost-cutting measure, but honestly, they needed that. They obviously didn't need it because Wii was a hit anyway, but to get the hardcore gaming experiences, the games that needed more accurate motion control, they needed that Wii Motion Plus acuity in there from the beginning. And a lot of games, like Metroid Prime 3, a lot of games where you had to rotate the stick, like the motion control in the base Wii remote, was basically it could sense a motion, but it was a sub-in for a button press. And it sensed those motions very well, but it was very limited. And it very quickly became, in Twilight Princess, it became from just actually doing the sword motions to just jiggling your wrist, doing that waggle. It just became a substitute for a button press. To do that stuff in Metroid Prime 3, you were rotating the controller to move Samus's hand in a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion. You had to be pointing at the screen, and you were using the infrared pointer to sense those motions, and it was very limiting in games like WarioWare Smooth Moves, where there are lots of motions where you needed those rotating motions, and you had to use the pointer for that. A lot of games suffered because of that, and frankly. So I remember when the first before that issue of EGM of Game Informer hit store shelves, that had the cover story on Red Steel, which was the first Revolution gameplay screenshots that came out. The knee-jerk reaction from all the trolls. Now, the prototype screenshots of Red Steel ended up looking better than the final game, but that's beside the point. The knee-jerk reaction from all the Nintendo haters, the trolls, was, oh, look at those screenshots. That is obviously way too good to be running on Nintendo Revolution because we know it's not going to be an HD system. Those screenshots are obviously way too good to be running on Revolution. Within 24 hours, when that was confirmed to be a legitimate leak of the Game Informer coverage of Red Steel, I saw on forums, some of the same users went from, oh, look how bad the graphics are. Oh, before you were saying those graphics were a little too good to be on Revolution. Now you're saying that the same screenshots prove how bad the graphics are. People, human beings, whatever. So that's the context so from September until May, this was the last of what we saw. And the way they edited in some of the first gameplay footage that we see of Wii in E3 2006, it's almost like a direct sequel to this sort of teaser trailer right here. Now, jumping into the next video.
So fat. Brendan, you're not
fat.
It's the shirt. Look at Nate.
Okay, now I have to pause again for a second to give more context. What I'm about to show you is what I have. This is one-of-a-kind footage. You hear unique thrown around a lot, rare footage. This is rare footage. This is unique. I am the only person I know of. There's no record of this existing other than the footage I'm about to show you, which I took myself. What I'm about to show you is rehearsal footage for Nintendo E3 2006. Because I was camped out in front of the Nintendo World Store, and I was the first person there. I got there like 7 o'clock the night before. I was the first person there till like 5 o'clock that morning. And mind you, this is before cellular internet, before wireless data, before Wi-Fi. I had a laptop, I didn't have Wi-Fi. And so I was in the dark about what was going on Sony's press conference, but in the window of the Nintendo store, they were testing. This is before streaming, right? So they brought out an actual giant satellite receiver dish that they set up in Rockefeller Plaza that had this huge 2-inch thick cable running from the satellite into the store to have a direct satellite link to the Kodak Theater where they're showing the press conference. And they were testing the satellite link the night before, and I could look in the window of the Nintendo store, on the monitors, I could see Miyamoto, Reggie, and Iwata rehearsing on stage in the Kodak Theater, and during parts, they were just casually playing. We didn't know it was called Wii Sports, but they were casually playing a tennis game with the Revolution controllers, and there was no Wi-Fi, there was no internet. I could have leaked that. I mean, nowadays I wouldn't with my, the way I carry myself and the way I behave now. But at the time, if I had wireless internet, which was still a pretty revolutionary thing in 06, I could have leaked that. This is the only footage I know that exists, and I don't have footage of all of it, but of them playing tennis and Wii Tennis with, Iwata and Reggie and Miyamoto playing Wii Tennis on stage. But I got that footage of them on stage rehearsing with visible mics on Reggie's lapel that were hidden in the final, the actual live stage show. So that's what we're going to see right now. You're going to get to hear my 2006 voice narrating over this. So.
The light. I need the light. Okay. It is 8:43 in the evening. And right up on that screen, this is Dot Shy from the Nintendo.
So if this is 8:43, it would have been 8:765. It would have been 5 o'clock local time as they're doing this rehearsal.
Forums. Right up on that screen, they are rehearsing the press conference that's going to take place tomorrow. This is the evening of the 8th. And through a satellite in the back of that store, I'm right in front of Nintendo World, they're broadcasting to test a... They're practicing the press conference right now. I think that's Miyamoto or Reggie walking across the bottom of the screen beneath that picture of the Wii controller up on screen. And I just watched them a few minutes ago. Reggie and Miyamoto and several others playing a multiplayer tennis game with the Wii controller. I don't have any footage of that for you because
whopping 4 megapixels.
It just changed a little. It doesn't look like they're focusing on that. So, with that, I'm gonna end this video.
Yeah, that is not the outfit that Satoru Iwata wore that day. So that's just his casual day clothes. Actually, I should mute this because there's a. Alright, so a little context here. Now, what was I getting at? So that morning, as this about around like 5 o'clock in the morning, other fans started showing up, and the word was that like there were people online as the line's building up for the press conference. People are heartbroken because the word is that how they described it to be, it's so bad. They did the PlayStation 3 show last night, and Sony stole the controller from Nintendo because they had what was eventually called the 6-axis motion tilt control built into the PS3 controller. Even though, because you're still having two hands on a single controller, what you're doing is so different from what Nintendo was doing. But they were so fearful that, like, Nintendo's advantage was dead now because they worked in this motion control into PS3 in a relatively late in the game to try to compete with Revolution. And I was able to tell them about, like, oh, this is the... I saw them practicing the footage last night. Now, we're not going to see this today, but because I had that same camera in the store with me, due to that, I have what I, to this day, understand to be the only live fan reaction footage to the reveal of the Wii, the reveal of Twilight Princess for Wii, the reveal of Mario Galaxy. There's this before, like, the blogging YouTube era. I was kind of really ahead of the game thinking I wanted to record these reactions. And I can only record a few minutes at a time because my big SD cards for my digital camera were 64 megabytes. So I had to fuse, okay, I want to take 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and hope I get some good reactions in this. So the whole store was filled. They closed the store for this event. The whole store was filled with fans. We're going to see the first gameplay footage of the Wii. And what is the first thing they're going to show? They're going to show Wii Music. The Wii was revealed to the world with Wii Music. And this is the first time I'm watching this on stage, on stream, actually. I've gone up to E3 2005 on other streams. But okay, let's go ahead. All right, let's compare the audio a little bit. And this is the first E3, I believe, to be done at the Kodak Theater, where they did their next few E3s. So he comes out. We didn't know what they're getting at this point. Then we realized, oh, he's conducting an orchestra. Look at that stadium, that theater. This right here is arguably the height of E3. At this point, it's no longer, we're gonna serve orange juice and bagels and bananas for breakfast to the people, and we're gonna have a little, breakfast buffet. Then we're gonna do a little PowerPoint for the press, and then we're gonna have a Q&A session. At this point, it's a spectacle. Not for the general public, but for the hardcore gaming public. This is something Nintendo is deliberately broadcasting out for their hardcore fans to get them starting to spread the word. So we start with Wii Music. It's not called. I mean, they called it Wii Music, but this is interesting because it's like an Ocarina of Time. This is like a mix of what Ocarina of Time's overworld would have been like if they used the traditional Zelda theme. You can see that he's controlling the tempo with the Wii remote. I mean, imagine Nintendo could not get away with this now. People were genuinely thrilled by this. The hardcore gaming public were, and then like by 2008. Which is going to be our final E3 of the day. The honeymoon is over. Now, I want to pause for a second. Now, they had an interactive Wii Music demo of this prototype version of the game at this year's E3. In 2007, there was nothing related to Wii Music. And I watched on IGN, GameSpot, G4, lots of people asking Reggie, Iwata, other representatives at Nintendo, what happened to Wii Music? Where's Wii Music? And that is what made Nintendo misjudge interest and think, oh wow, the gaming media, the mainstream gaming press is really interested in Wii Music. Let's make this the highlight of our E3 next year. And that's what sent them to arguably their darkest, most embarrassing disaster of a press conference in history. But we're going to continue for now. Now, what happens next is a little odd, and I'm going to say why. So that was the Wii Music demo. And then look at what happened. Even at the time, even in 2006, looking back on this, I thought this was weird. Miyamoto starts dancing with the Wii Remote while stock music plays that has nothing to do with Wii Music. There's one guy another thing, I have to tell the story real quick. There was an autograph signing with Reggie Fils-Aimé at Nintendo World, like, the day after they revealed the Wii name as the final name for Revolution. And people were asking, like, Reggie, is there anything you can tell us about Revolution? And what Reggie was saying was, well, I can't say too much, but there's a very exciting racing game that we're going to be showing at E3. And that ended up being was Excite Truck. So even in the Nintendo store, we're like, oh, that's the racing game he's talking about. He says a very exciting racing game. He's hitting an Excite Truck. But Miyamoto just starts dancing like a maniac with the Wii Remote in a way that has nothing to do with the with the music. And he's just dancing for no reason. And it's like, yeah, E3 2007, look at him. He's just jamming out for no reason. This has nothing to do with what we're looking at. So we have Excite Truck there, and then now we have Red Steel here. This is before we realized the limitations of Red... This is when we imagined Red Steel basically playing like what Red Steel 2 played like. We don't realize how limited the Wii Remote's motion control was at this point. What? Like, this is all theater. Like, he's dancing and pretending like he's conducting with the Wii Remote, and it means nothing. He's not controlling anything, and I love it. Boy, did I dry my throat out.
You came to LA this week to peek into the future. But if all you want is next generation, you're in the wrong place. Because what you'll see from Nintendo is not just next.
I just wanted...
Instead, it's what's absolutely new.
All right.
What we're unveiling is the next leap in gaming.
Of the game.
To a place where playing is no longer just about looks. It's about the feel.
Sorry, I just dry my throat out so bad. It's hard recovering.
To just a few. It's about everyone. And most of all, the next leap is not about what you see, because what you see is not always what you get.
That got a reaction in the Nintendo store. That got a strong reaction.
Because playing is believing.
Oh, and mind you, where he said playing is believing, they showed that on screen there. They had to pay Namco. They had to pay a licensing fee to Namco to use that, because that's something that Namco actually owned the trademark to at the time. That phrase "playing is believing." And here we have our first sizzle reel, and this feels like a direct sort of continuation of the Tokyo Game Show 2005 teaser trailer. And mind you, this right here is our first... This montage right here is where we learned about the speaker in the Wii Remote. That was kept under very close wraps. In fact, it was kept under such close wraps that when we were entering the Nintendo store, they were handing out pins of the Wii controller, and the pins did not have the speaker on them yet. The pins Nintendo commissioned to give out to people at the store viewing the event did not have the speaker on them. And so here we have some of the demos that ended up becoming part of Wii Sports. So it's like all these things we're imagining in our heads, now we're actually seeing, for at least some of these concepts, actual footage of what's going on, that to show that they actually are working on these prototypes, and it's not entirely just there's Excite Truck. Well, we didn't know it was Excite Truck yet. We just know it's some kind of racing, some kind of motion control racing game. That was a cool. And look at the guy actually holding that big prop steering wheel that ended up becoming that right there. That's the moment we learned about Mario Galaxy. They reveal it so casually. And here's where we learn about the speaker. And I'm like, what are we looking at? He's running on the bottom of the world? Like, what is this? And mind you, keep in mind, this is the first Mario platformer we have seen since Mario Sunshine in 2002. So, and look, notice how they're going out of their way to show more of the actual console box than they do in the Wii U trailer. Like, if they had tried those close-up shots up... Now, because of... I've heard of some stories on the Nintendo Insider forums of a few younger kids, I guess, their parents telling them that they can't have Wii because of this several seconds of footage of Metroid Prime 3. Like, oh, the system is too violent, you can't have this system now. Meanwhile, they already had GameCube that had Metroid Prime 1 and 2 on it, so go figure. And at the time, the fact that there was any, like, improvement in resolution or detail over GameCube was enough to, like, because the bar was set so low that I think, like, in my head, I was somewhat expecting it to look like N64 or something ridiculous like that. And we have WarioWare here. I was really excited to see this. The actual game I found to be very disappointing, my least favorite WarioWare game that I've played, and because of the limitations of the motion control. Now, it's a good game, it's just that I feel like the limitations of the motion control and the fact that they have to tell you in advance what pose to use, it sort of spoils a bit of the spontaneity of the WarioWare micro games. You already have a sense of what you're going to be doing once the game starts. Now, just to put this out here for now, later on in when they do the stage demo of Red Steel, there is a technical problem that only was visible to people in the theater. So but for people watching online, now this is the moment we got confirmation of Twilight Princess for Wii. And this was back when there was a very large visible fairy at all moments when using the pointer. That was kind of the presence of the fairy was kind of toned down in the final version, from what I remember. I mean, and frankly, what we were imagining with this is with the motion control here, we really didn't get what most of us were imagining here until Skyward Sword, and by then, like, people's love affair with... Man, if Wii Motion Plus and Skyward Sword could have launched with the Wii, I think the nature of the games could have... of what the expectations for what a Wii game could be. And one thing about the Wii name, I remember when they had revealed the Wii name, IGN went around, they did like an on-street survey of asking random people, like, do you like random people who don't even follow game news, just people on the street, oh, do you like the name Revolution or Wii better? It's like, oh, Revolution sounds cooler. And like, oh, and so it's like, you're judging people's reaction to a brand that Nintendo haven't even started building with the public yet.
Last year at E3, we uncaged Nintendogs. And many asked, really? Then 9 months ago at the Tokyo Game Show, we revealed how we from Nintendo will change game control.
Notice how he says we from Nintendo, not Nintendo Wii. Nintendo never officially called the system Nintendo Wii.
See. Fair enough. Because today you will see, and tomorrow you'll start to feel. Welcome to the next leap in gaming and Nintendo's 2006 media briefing, where we have answers to some questions.
Now, you have to, another thing that's easy to forget, even if you were there at the time, this is in an age when this day, this 1 hour, was like 80 to 90% of the Nintendo news you got for the year. E3 was most of the video game news. There weren't directs, they weren't state of plays.
With a couple of questions for you.
You know, so this was a huge deal for the whole year.
Never watched TV, never seen a movie, never read a book? Of course not.
And he makes this point now,
so let me ask
and it's scary in spite of all of the...
Do you know someone, maybe even in your own family, who's never played a video game.
And this has changed so much since then, yet the point still stands. So many more... Gaming is bigger than ever. More people have played games than ever before. Yet there's still this stigma, even people against it. And it's really strange how both of those things are true at once.
And today, change begins here with a new console, just as it already has with a new handheld.
And yes, that's me playing versus Pinball up in the corner there. That's the live gameplay.
On your mind. First, the system. Why did you make it so different? And
yeah, gone are the days of PowerPoint presentations. This is like a big public show now. Well, not open to the public, but
and
for
what's
the public.
Backstory about that name?
Is this?
And finally, what about the games? And which developers are on board with us?
I slightly cropped off. I didn't mean to crop off the bit of the bottom of the screen like that in my layout. Sorry.
Not just for the sake of doing things differently, but to do things better. The graveyard of any industry is filled with the headstones of companies who decided to keep doing things the same old way, playing only on the margin, making things just a little bit better. That strategy works for a while, but ultimately it's fatal. Over the years, our industry has come to
This is the first time I've marathoned this many of these E3 presentations. We're thinking a full year of my life passed between each one of these, and I'm just watching them one after another after another.
1996, when Super Mario 64 jumped to life in true 3D. And you said, man, that looks great. But that leap to a revolutionary form of gaming wasn't really about the looks. Even then, it was about the feel. Moving your character and your viewpoint independently in any direction, all in real time. And the memory of that moment was also the starting point for Wii. In the same way that Super Mario 64 changed everything, we asked, how do we make games that feel entirely new all over again? This week, every one of you will feel our answer. As for date and price, we believe it's in our best interest to keep the details private for just a while longer.
Yeah, I think it was September this year they revealed the launch details, the pricing and the...
We will give you more fun for less money, and you'll be playing Wii in the fourth quarter of 2006. Okay, next, the name. First, we want to thank everyone who wrote good things about it the day you heard it. Both of you.
Yeah, I remember that.
But seriously, the response didn't surprise us at all. At first, every distinctive name sounds strange. Did you love Lexus the first time you heard it? How about IKEA? How about Google? Change is good. Wii from Nintendo means just what it sounds like. Wii. It's the sound of inclusion.
I just love the way he does the T-pose.
Every gamer you know and every new gamer who's going to join us.
I mean, and
it's a giant leap for gaming.
And at the end of the day, people still say, "Oh, the Wii name, like that name was so stupid." I'm like, yeah, but what are the two of the first decade of the 20th century, 21st century, the two biggest tech brands, new tech brands, iPod and Wii? I can't think of and arguably Google, but even Google like started in the 90s. Like Google, iPod, and Wii are the three biggest tech brands of that first decade. Like you can't dispute that.
From Nintendo and our partners, we can't wait to show you what's on the way.
I think this is the sizzle reel. Yeah, this is the sizzle reel where they actually show the names of the games at the bottom. Yeah, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Oh, and by the way, here's my video source, just to point that there. Anything that causes copyright problems, I think they've already muted for me. E3 2003, 4, and 5 was a custom video I made where I muted the stuff myself. Now, Disaster Day of Crisis. This got a huge reaction in the Nintendo store. Disaster Day of Crisis and... how did I get a royal flush without even looking in pinball? Okay. No, Disaster Day of Crisis and Project Hammer. Two, grittier looking action games published by Nintendo. Was like, whoa, they really are expanding what they do. Now, Disaster Day of Crisis only got a Western release in Europe. People talk about Reggie allegedly personally vetoing Mother 3 from a Western release, personally vetoing Xenoblade Chronicles and The Last Story until those games got their North American releases. Disaster Day of Crisis, Reggie has gone on record saying he specifically did not like this game and did not think it would do well in North America. He thought the game wasn't that good. He thought the voice acting and productions were really cheesy. So it's funny how two of the biggest, most impact-making games on us in that moment were like, wow, Nintendo's expanding into more, grittier territory with the stuff they're developing and publishing, ended up not coming out. One got canceled entirely, Project Hammer, which behind the scenes was already being called Machine X by NST, the house within Nintendo. And if you haven't looked into the development, the nightmare of Project Hammer or Machine X, it basically it led to accusations of mistreatment of employees, of racism and regionalism by Nintendo higher-ups in Japan, and arguably caused Nintendo Software Technologies to be put in a permanent window seat where all they've done ever since, as far as I'm aware, is like the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. And to the point where they've done stuff that Miyamoto was personally upset at them about, like blowing a bunch of money on these unnecessary CG cutscenes that they outsourced with another company. Like, the development of Project Hammer is such a nightmare and an amazing story that arguably destroyed a developer within Nintendo that still exists to this day and hasn't really done anything significant since. So... But in the moment, that was absolutely jaw-dropping. And this was Fire Emblem before it was as big of a deal as it is nowadays. Yeah, this is the moment where we learned the name of Super Mario Galaxy. And it's we take it for granted now, but it seemed like such like a dream sort of concept, like obvious evolution from Super Mario Land, Super Mario World. Hey, Super Mario Galaxy, right? Yeah, this is a Spike Chun stuff. Oh, this is where we learned of Excite Truck. I played Excite Truck, which was one of the only games I knew of that let you use the SD card on the Nintendo, on the Wii, to let you use custom music in your game, which is something I also did with like Jet Set Radio Future. Oh, Rayman 4, back before the Rabbids arguably permanently destroyed. Well, this game got transformed into Rayman Raving Rabbids, what started off as a actual 3D Rayman platformer. This of Sonic Wildfire, that became Sonic and the Secret Rings. But yeah, Project Hammer, which was already, I don't know, being by the actual developers within Nintendo working on it, Project Hammer was already being known as Machine X. And for some weird reason, the Project Hammer that placeholder logo, which ended up being the only logo ever shown for it, that was done up in the same font as the logo for the Mother games. And that's argued, the joke was, oh, they used the same font as Mother, no wonder it ended up going through development hell and getting canceled. Man, I'm really tearing it up here.
I think you may have recognized that last game. It's called The Legend of Zelda. But this one is different.
Oh, the Wii one was bad, because I know you played the remake of the first one that they put out on the Switch a couple years ago. I actually saw when you were streaming that.
But just as importantly...
Oh, you returned it. Wow, it was that bad, huh?
Because this is the first Zelda game that will be right there.
Yeah, actually, when we were watching E3 2003, I was talking about how Nintendo was really harping on, George Harrison as well as Mr. Iwata were both like, we haven't demonstrated the value of Game Boy Advance GameCube connectivity yet, and that's going to turn around the fortunes of the GameCube. And when the two of the headline games for connectivity were Crystal Chronicles and Four Swords Adventures, both of which were those two are the only Game Boy Advance GameCube connectivity games that needed 4 Game Boys and 4 link cables. And those two games alone established this reputation of Game Boy Advance GameCube connectivity being very expensive and complicated when those are the only two games that needed that. Most, like 95% of the connectivity games only needed 1 Game Boy and 1 GameCube. And 1 link cable, but those two games using 4 GBAs and 4 link cables gave it such a bad reputation of being complicated and expensive.
On the nunchuck. Link's arsenal of items is going to be mapped to the plus control pad.
Yeah, there's Bill Trinan, and Nate Bildorf there does not appear much, even in Nintendo Directs and stuff like that. He never doesn't appear very much, Nate Bildorf, but he's still at Nintendo as I understand it.
Takes advantage, of course, of the unique controller. It provides new, unique, and intuitive...
They kind of toned down the presence of the fairy in the final version of this game.
The first thing you'll
on the
notice
Wii
on
version.
screen in the Wii version is the presence of a fairy. This fairy indicates where you'll be pointing with the Wii Remote's pointer. You'll use this on a very basic level to access all of your menu screens, select your items.
Actually, something just occurred to me.
It's very nice, it's very easy to use, and I think you're all going to like it. But, you know, menus aren't that exciting, so why don't we get into some of the more intense battle? Your basic sword swings are handled using the B button on the bottom of the Wii Remote.
Back when... Yeah, they
but
actually did...
not all of your enemies are going to be within reach.
Yeah, at this point, there was no motion control sword play yet.
And that's where Link's bow comes in handy. Like
they did not add that in until later, because so many people were, like, in the press were asking, like, why don't you have the motion control for Link's sword, and they mapped it in at that point.
Now, as Nate's showing
because
here,
I think they recognized that, well, first off, freeing up the B button made the Wii Remote nunchuck setup a lot more practical for the button management and action management. But they really recognized, I think even at this point, that having motion control swordplay with what the basic Wii Remote was capable of would have just made the motion control a substitute for a button press and not have the one-to-one real-time motion controls like what people really wanted from Zelda on Wii, which we didn't get until the Wii Motion Plus and Skyward Sword.
You'll hear the flip of the arrow. And then you'll hear that sound travel from your hand to the TV, where that arrow will plunge into the chest of your enemy.
And make it sound so hype and
sound that no other controller and no other system can offer. And I know that other developers already have.
I was thinking I want to play Twilight Princess on stream eventually. And I have Wii U. I have Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U, and I'm really torn. Should I if I want to play it on? Because if I play it on if I play Twilight Princess HD, then I can have I like that the controller and the way they map the interface, the item selection on the gamepad. But then I don't like the way that you could only play the mirrored mode and the super hard mode, because I only played Twilight Princess a couple of times. I never played through it from beginning to end, except for my first playthrough back in 2006. But in my I want to play it the way I played it on the Wii, which is the mirrored mode, which is the way most people initially played it anyway. And the stream is going to be harder. My gameplay is going to be harder and less fun if I have to play it like in the original GameCube version, which is the standard mode, standard difficulty, because I'm not a hardcore gamer. I have to play. I play Twilight Princess on any game that has an easy mode. I play it on easy mode. So it's like either I play it on Twilight Princess HD.
Oh, you're the only person in America who's played this game and you still can't do this?
Oh, man. A bit harsh, Bill.
One other thing you can do is you can pick up crates with the A button on the Wii Remote, and then when you want to throw them at your enemy, you just give a quick chuck with the nunchuck. So like I've mentioned, the nunchuck, obviously...
Iwata at Game Developer... No, at Tokyo Game Show, he called the analog stick expansion a nunchuck-style controller.
for a lot of freedom with unique control styles.
You played it on GameCube. And Nintendo, they were playing hardball back then. This is arguably a bit dirty, because what they did, they didn't release the GameCube version for like a month after the Wii version.
You watch here, they're actually going to lift you up.
They really wanted to make sure that, to give you as much reason as possible to play it on GameCube. And you could only play in 480p enhanced definition, or the higher resolution mode. You could only play that on GameCube. I mean, you could only play that on Wii. And you could only play it on widescreen on the Wii. And now, I still had a standard definition, like it didn't even have 480p, it just had standard def tube set 4x3, so playing it on GameCube, I would have had no disadvantage playing it on GameCube. But I remember wishing I had like a widescreen high resolution, or 480p, I guess, television, enhanced resolution they were calling it, TV, so I could play the Skyward. And I remember, yeah, I was in college when Wii came out, and I just remember like waiting, like, man, I cannot wait for, you know, to play the new Zelda game. Yeah, no, Nintendo was much more, and I think it's because Nintendo was, well, at this point, Nintendo's kind of, you could argue they're a bit in survival mode, where if the Wii went like GameCube, or worse, they would have been in serious jeopardy. Whereas, going in from Wii U to Switch, I guess you could say they're in survival mode then too, but they also were in the sense that we're ending the Wii like premature. We're ending Wii U obviously at least a couple of years prematurely, and we want to keep goodwill with the people who support us through the Wii U era. So I think that's the motivation as to why they ended up launching Breath of the Wild on Wii U and Switch on the same day. Hey, Hankia there! The Wii launch of Twilight Princess was a magical moment for sure. Hankia, I have seen you in my you've been in my chat before, haven't I seen you in my chat a while back? Because this new, like, first-time Sparkles thing is something they added fairly recently, so certain people that haven't been in chat for a long time, when they drop in, it'll show this exciting little, you know, Sparkles thing. But I think you've been around. Oh, I've been loving the stream? Oh, thank you. I think I've seen you in stream before, in chat, you know.
That's because here in the Americas, Nintendo will launch 2 different versions. One for GameCube and another for Wii. On the same day.
Yeah, they did not end up keeping true to that. They ended up delaying the GameCube version by at least a couple of weeks. If you follow me on YouTube, then no. If I know if you use the same screen name on YouTube, then that's where I've seen you. But I know you. I feel like you've been. So I know your screen name somewhere or another.
Actions speak louder than words. So let's look at some games. Samus is back, and Metroid Prime 3: Corruption.
Yeah.
You'll not only do more running and gunning,
now,
but both the Wii Remote and
the controls were cool, but frankly, the not having the fully lock-on base controls, I'm not good with first-person shooters. I do have a fine motor disability. I don't know if that plays into it. I played it like Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, but once shooters went full twin stick, I really stopped enjoying them. Mario Galaxy. It's the first explication of this.
His brand new adventure for Wii is called Super Mario Galaxy. And with freehand control, Mr. Miyamoto has given Mario moves he's never had.
I don't know if those enemies that were like sort of attached to Mario there ended up being in the final version. And I have Mario 3D All-Stars. I have the hard copy of it. I could that's a game I want to play someday, Mario Galaxy.
This new system represents the next leap in gaming. But can it truly be new if all the names are the same? Of course not. That's why we're hard at work on new franchises to expand our portfolio. And we like to give you 3 early previews this morning.
2 of which are not coming out, at least not in North America. That came out.
Most of you recognize the pedigree. But what you won't recognize is the method of control.
This game was fun. I enjoyed this game. This is one of those games that even when I was playing it back in 06 was like, felt nostalgic, because this feels like one of those games I would have rented on like PlayStation or N64 on a Friday night and played with my brother after we got our homework done. We go to Blockbuster, rent a game. Mom takes us, or Dad takes us over to the pizza place on the way back from the video store.
In Project Hammer, swing the
This game was
controller, and
canceled.
the bad guys
This
get
game,
nailed.
this game's development went so off the
bad
rails
guy
that at one
is
point they were
Mother
going to make it a
Nature.
Mii game
Survive
called
or
Wii
not is your
Smash.
call. In disaster,
This game
pay a
only
price.
released in Europe and in Japan.
Come
This never
feel the
came to
panic
North America.
And bring the catastrophe under your control. Obviously, game creation inside Nintendo is important. But just as important is what's coming from our great
Should I?
third-party partners around
Yes,
the
I
world.
should actually. I'm going to
Independent developers have been hard at
I'm
work
going to
in Japan.
introduce
And although we
something.
won't be spending a lot of time today,
Yeah, I'm
detailing
going to
projects,
add an
we
unexpected
did want to
addition
underscore
to
a
our
couple
lineup
of
today.
excellent
This is the only stream I have where it's really going to...
When Sega saw the new control system, they said, it's time to put Sonic back into gear.
Yeah, we're still waiting, Sega.
Finally, the
Yeah, we're
Speedster is
arguably still
totally
waiting on
under
that.
Your control. Look up. The mothership is about to land, and Square Enix is arriving with an exclusive iteration of its legendary series with Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Yet again, we will take what is familiar and reinvent it. And Hallmark franchises are also on the way from this side of the Pacific. You may be a veteran all-pro playing EA's Madden Football, but with freehand control, reinventing everything from the snap to the
Yeah,
drop
just,
back to the pass to the run after the catch, you'll feel like a lively rookie all over again. And grinders know it's all about balance. And with Activision's Tony Hawk, we will transmit that reality right to the palms of your hands.
Okay, I have to pull
And
up...
Rayman's traveled to many platforms for Ubisoft over the last...
You know what? I miss the Ubisoft tradition of just sticking a port of Rayman 2 on every new system that comes out. Yeah, that game arguably never came out because it turned into Rayman Raving Rabbids and derailed that, which was the end of 3D Rayman, and derailed platformer Rayman in general up until
a launch number this morning.
Rayman
You'll be
Origins.
playing 27 different Wii games tomorrow on the show floor.
Okay.
And seeing even more on video. And remember, that 27 number includes none of the titles which will be available with our virtual console.
Now, I remember at the time being surprised that they actually stuck with the Virtual Console name for the final name of the service.
What this is all about. Today, all we can do is show you exampple.
Oh, I'm missing some
Let's
chat,
bring
excuse
another
me.
one to life right here on this stage.
Yeah, they reinvented it and it was trash. I mean, the game, I'm sure it was a fine minigame compilation, but I was disappointed. I ended up selling it to GameStop for like 25 cents a credit. That's how disappointed I was. I didn't even care I was getting totally fleeced.
Good
Now-
morning, everyone.
So for Red Steel here, there is a problem where the game did not display within the theater, but it displayed for everyone in the Nintendo store and everyone watching on stream. And because of that, there was this... Hold on. Now, E3, 2003 to 2008. Now I have to... Now, because of that, there's a point where everyone in the theater starts cheering, and it's because the game actually started running properly on stream, and they could actually see the gameplay. They're kind of improvising it and pretending that everyone in the audience can see it, and they can't. So out of context, I made it look like they were cheering because of like the game, and it was really confusing.
Is our lead game designer, Roman Campos-Oriola. We are really very excited to be here today to debut Ubisoft's Nintendo Wii exclusive launch title, Red Steel. Red Steel is a first-person action game set in both USA and Japan, in which the player will have to learn to master both modern firearms and the katana sword.
Katana sword. I love how he says those Japanese words with the French accent. Because I'm used to hearing Japanese words with an American or British accent, not really a French one so much.
Fire his gun with the other controller simply by pressing the trigger button. With the Wii controller, you can handle the gun the way you want, and at the first time, simply by moving your hand, like in real life. So, if you want to play it gangsta style, you can. And it's the same.
Yeah, we're adding. I may regret this. I'm adding another 40-minute video. After there's going to be a video about the E3 2006 Nintendo DS, which is
For the very first time in the game,
3 minutes long
you
after
will
this,
really feel like
which we're about halfway
both your
through.
hands have entered the screen.
And
You are in the game.
when we see it,
As you can see,
basically, it was the first ever, and I'm the only person to document this and save it. So I was I'm the only trace of this still existing on the internet. It was basically the first ever fake leak where someone claimed to have gone through Reggie's trash at NOA headquarters and found the script for an upcoming Nintendo presentation and did a hoax leak. And I have that, and I'm like actually like read and review the leak. So that'll be interesting to cover, and I look forward to doing so. And I made a video of it, and it's a 40-minute video, and I'll just play that on stream. In fact, I don't even necessarily need to be on camera for that, so if I want to mute my mic and chow down on a little food. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mute my mic for the most part, and microwave up some chili or something like that, and use that as an opportunity to take a little break where I'm not necessarily on camera. And in fact, for that purpose, I'm going to do a pseudo VTuber thing. And I'll start setting that up now. Actually, no. Yeah, this is what I'll do.
And now we'll be speaking more precisely about IA in the game. So once again, destructible environments. And enemies, surprisingly in a game, really care for themselves. That means that depending on their level
and the final game didn't quite look this good, but they were working on PC hardware. And I remember there being a big scandal, at least on the forums, when like someone took photos from E2006 and realized that the Wii prototype, the Wii units that were on display were actually just for show, and what they were actually playing on were Wii development kits that were GameCubes with a bunch of wires coming out of them. And at the time that was treated as a scandal, like, oh, like the Wii isn't as far in development as possible, or the Wii is literally just going to be a GameCube with no enhanced abilities whatsoever.
He has been killed, sorry. Then they will act differently.
No, I don't have time to properly rig this together, but and of course, since I am okay.
So now, Roman is going to show us a feature of the game which is called the freeze shot. This feature will be very useful in tricky situations. So simply by holding a button, the player will be able to freeze time, and then will be able to tag weak points on enemies. You then will have to choose between killing those enemies or making them submit to you. In this scene, you will be able to see the freeze shot.
Let me see. Where is... Actually, I think I passed already.
Once again, destructible environments everywhere in the game.
Pac-Man.
So one woman will tag the weak points, disarming or killing. So as you have seen, he killed a man, and then the boss is submitted.
And mind you, the people in the audience aren't seeing any of
He's
this,
done, for instance,
I think.
like this, just simply by moving your left hand to indicate what you want him to do. We have God rays. Oh. Little surprise, collateral damage on the boss. Morman will know, have to take on his next enemy, and for that
here we
he
go.
will have to draw his
Here we
sword.
go. You're about to see a bunch of a little art credit dump here. I'm gonna get this off screen
So
quickly,
once again, the moves you have to make
because what I'm
for the
doing.
sword fighting are very intuitive. You can block with your left hand and slash with your right hand.
The
in any
part
direction.
where
That's
it was the part where the car blew up.
dozens of
That
combinations
point
to do.
where they blew up the car and talked about the reflections was the same moment that the video went on screen for everyone in the theater.
This will be very easy to handle.
I just
Thanks to the
I'm gonna
recontroller,
shrink this
but of course
down,
very
put
hard
this
to
in the
master.
corner, and I could use that Because I've done this only a couple of times though I've eaten on stream, and it's during watch party things like this, longer ones.
Will be able to play it tomorrow at the Nintendo booth.
Please, and my broadcast software is very slow, so excuse me. If I had been thinking, I would have got this ready first, but all I want to do is shrink this down and out of the way so it's not blocking the screen. Okay.
We want to switch gears now from what's going to be hot tomorrow to what's hot right now. Nintendo DS.
Oh, come on.
Please welcome our Senior Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Communications, George Harrison.
This might be George Harrison's last E3 appearance. I think he appeared in 2007 and that was it. I don't think he appeared in 2008. I want to get this off the screen so much. I'm very sorry, but I'm setting this up for later on when I'm going to eat and I want to go off camera for that, and I'll be mic only.
We will make things better. Well, what
Come
makes
on.
us think that Nintendo can deliver? Well, above all, one thing.
There we go.
Nintendo DS. Our long-held strategy of
There we
disruption
go.
became reality when we launched DS 18 months ago. Since then, true gamers have bought into true hardware disruption and software disruption.
And this was before the launch of
Different approach to
No, the
portable play.
Nintendo DS Lite and Brain Age
We're
were
not
only a
gonna
couple
spend too much time
of
today
months away
going
from
down
coming out
the
at this
sales
point.
numbers.
This is before
clarity is in order.
DS was successful, but there wasn't a real
DS
casual
launched at the end of
revolution
2004, and it did very well.
on the
Then the
on
PSP
the
arrived.
DS yet, as it would be
Some would
very
question
soon.
if we were up to the challenge. But once all the early adopters cleared away, it became clear that a matter of games, it's always a matter of games as it
Oh, poor
always
George,
is.
he's flubbing his lines. And
And what's
I
revived the
totally
portable
feel for
market
him.
is what only the DS delivered.
Please,
Things players had never seen before.
I'm trying to do something that should have taken seconds, and it's taking me multiple
the brain
minutes of this
games,
art being on screen, and I don't want it
portable
there.
Wi-Fi play. The result is this. In terms of actual sell-through to players, the DS has sold more than 16 million units worldwide since its launch just 18 months ago.
All right.
Now, independent sources
let me
put
drag it
total worldwide
over.
PSP sell-through to consumers at millions less. Millions less. But even more important is our growing momentum. First came Nintendogs. More than 6 million copies were
Please
sold
let me
to players
drag
around the
the
world
art
in
out of
just
off
13
my layout.
months.
And this
Then
is
we
why I
launched
don't stream
Nintendo
as often as
Wi-Fi
I'd like to,
connection,
because doing anything
the
in
most
real time like this
successful
is like a
network
huge
ever
risk.
created for dedicated
That something like this will
play.
happen.
Easy and free is a pretty persuasive offer. And the player response proves it.
All right.
1.3 million.
I'll be back on
discrete
camera in a second.
Wi-Fi
I'm just
connection
preparing
users
this
so far,
to be a little
totaling
placeholder
over
thing
40
for when
million gameplay sessions.
I go off
And
stream
all
to
this in
eat,
less
and
than
I'll
half
stay.
a
I'll be
year.
mic only. I have settings where you don't pick
But
up me
maybe
eating
the strongest
on.
wave of all has just reached our shores. 3 weeks ago, the first Brain game.
Oh,
launched in North
that
America.
Brain Age launched before. Well,
This,
I got Brain
after
Age
the
for
free
free when I
version
got my
in
DS Lite at the
Japan
Nintendo
sold
store,
to
so I
more
kind
than
of.
5 million players.
No, it was New
Over
Super
a third
Mario
of them
Brothers
over the age of 35. Now it's too soon to
that
tell
came
if our
out
ultimate success
at the
will
same
match
time as
Japan's. But we do know
as
that
the
our
DS
sales of
Lite.
Brain Age over the first 3 weeks, now totaling about
Please let me-
120,000 units, is even more than what we saw in Japan. And we expect to leverage that same appeal with a wider spectrum of games that we're calling touch generations. Beyond the Brain games, upcoming games like Clubhouse games and Sudoku Gridmaster will further our reach to include people who've never
Sudoku.
felt
That's so
comfortable with
2006.
games before. For DS, we're simply not letting up. In
Okay.
just a few weeks, the newest handheld sensation arrives here in America. Nintendo DS
Please let me
Lite. It's
blow this up a
smaller,
little bit.
lighter, and brighter than the original. And if the Japan experience is any
Please
teacher,
let me blow it up a
will be
little
even
bit.
more popular than the original.
And New Super Mario Brothers, it's easy to sigh at it now. But at the time, this is the first
Which is a very
side-scrolling
picture of
game
old
starring Mario
The environments
since
characters,
Super Mario World on
and
Super
motion so
Nintendo.
familiar.
People
But
thought
with
this
new
would never
skinny
happen
blue
again.
shells
People
and the
thought of
ability for
2D
players
Mario
to
in the
play
past
Mario
tense, something that
against
once
each other
existed but is no longer a
This is
thing.
brand new Mario game, which will appeal to brand new players. The Pokemon are coming too. In Pokemon Blue Mystery Dungeon for the DS.
Now, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, I love the world and settings of these games, but I do not like the gameplay. Like, I wish if these games had a traditional turn-based RPG, like, battle system, instead of the roguelike thing, I would love these games to death, because I love the world and the settings, but I do not really like the gameplay at all, sadly.
Star Fox and Diddy Kong.
Please let me just scroll this over a little bit. I'm doing something that should have taken 10 seconds, and it's taken me multiple minutes.
Final Fantasy III. Well, prepare to be fulfilled.
Oh my gosh.
The legendary title is coming to America on the DS, complete with a compelling storyline, but made even better with improved 3D
There we go.
graphics.
Yeah, there we go.
And one more legend
And
is
now
also
I
going
just have to
global.
scroll, just collapse
Tony
this
Hawk's
down a bit.
Downhill Jam has him recruiting the best downhill skaters from around
This game
the
looked
world.
interesting just because of the downhill racing
also
aspect,
connect
but I never
directly to
actually
best
played
golf
any of these
players
games,
around
either on
the
Wii or
world.
DS.
And thanks to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection,
I keep
you can
misremembering
chat on
this
voice
as
over
being
IP
the Wi-Fi
at the
Tony
same
Hawk game
time.
that launched alongside Mario
best of
Kart
all,
DS to start
this is also
Nintendo
the
Wi-Fi
only exclusive
connection off in
Zelda
late
title.
2005, but it was
The
actually...
Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass.
Now this game I played, I
Picking up
appreciate
where
how
Wind
it took
Waker left
advantage
off,
of almost
now
every
use your
aspect
DS
that DS had to
direct
offer.
sailing, sword
Alright,
play,
and now...
even the path of your boomerang.
Okay, scroll that down a
The
bit,
DS is set to soar to the next level.
and...
In all, there will be more than 100 new games from DS
Please,
from now until the
now
end
I
of
want
the
to turn
year.
this off.
Take a look.
Yeah, Mario Hoops 3-on-3, developed by Square Enix of all companies. You would not think of them as the obvious choice to do... Hey, I'm back. Hiya. Yeah, you would not think of them as the obvious choice to do a 2D... I mean, a Mario basketball game. You'd think they'd be the people to do a new Mario RPG game, but that's another story. No, like, there was cheering inside the Nintendo World Store at this. No one would have dared imagine that just a few years later, the new Super Mario Bros. Series, regardless of how good the gameplay is or isn't, would just have been released. Iterative new sequels to new Super Mario Bros. Had come out. I mean, there were only one per system. Now, Yoshi's Island 2, they ended up not calling it Yoshi's Island 2, they ended up calling it Yoshi's Island DS. Like how it says, you are Pokemon, not you are a Pokemon. But at Yoshi's Island DS, they ended up, and I'm glad they ended up calling it Yoshi's Island DS instead of Yoshi's Island 2, because the game was fine, I just did not enjoy Yoshi's Island DS that much. Phantom Hourglass was good. No, the first, and then the second one was good, and I mean, I think all of the games were good, it's just that the worst offense was the fact that New Super Mario Bros. 2 and New Super Mario Bros. U came out so, like, within months of each other, and it gave this impression of New Super Mario Bros. Being this annualized series, and that was not the case at all, but it was just bad timing. And the fact that 3 out of the 4 games of the series recycled the same soundtrack. They couldn't even compose a new main theme for each of the games, which was really, I think, one of the worst aspects of it. And even when New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which I loved, was this is a very cool stage, by the way. But New Super Mario Bros. Wii, hey, Cruz, how you doing? Welcome to my stream. I love this game history stuff. I don't do it as often as I'd like to. Tomorrow today we've done Nintendo's E3 from 2003 to 2008. We're at 2006 right now. And then tomorrow I'll be doing 2009 to 2014. And then I'll be doing a bit of a hiatus. I'll be going. I have a lot of clients to deal with in my professional life, so I'll be going off stream for a little while. But if you look on the news section or the update, the about section on my Twitch page, you can see I like to plan out my streams weeks or even months in advance. You can see when I'll be streaming and what I'll be streaming.
and
Lots of
non-game.
classic stuff, lots
These
of
types of games
I
can
mostly do
not
retro
stop
stuff, but
our
I've done a lot of modern stuff too. I tend to focus on platformers and
logical
more
solution
casual oriented stuff.
is to reinvent
But I did Kirby and the Forgotten
relationship
Land
between
earlier. I
player
do
and
Mario Party
game.
Superstars here and
The
there.
game
But mostly
controller
vintage
interface.
retro stuff. I even did a lot of
This approach
some
can
television
appeal
stuff
to
on
a
the
much broader audience,
a few weeks ago.
but also excite core gamers. This is important because
There we
core
go.
gamers always represent our most important audience. Our first implementation was Nintendo DS.
And now this gives
Like
context
many
because when
disruptive
Nintendo
innovations,
DS
At first,
was first announced,
confused some people.
like
But these
there's a
people
statement
began to
from
understand
Iwata
when
like,
they
oh, if
started
Nintendo
to
DS
set
fails,
their
Nintendo will be
ability
crushed.
pilots
He's not talking about, oh, it'll be bad because it was a sales failure. He's talking about the whole
Next in
concept of this
we launched
audience
the first
expansion
of the
concept
brain games.
will have been crushed.
They
And we didn't
have
really understand that at the
already
time.
been played by millions of people who never tried a video game before. Many people in our industry thought these consumers were impossible to reach. But
Yeah.
now, the trend is spreading to the Western world.
Yeah, when I got my Nintendo DS Lite a few weeks after this,
So,
that was when I got my copy of Brain Age, which was for free from Nintendo, courtesy of Nintendo at the Nintendo World Store. And those copies were actually left over
the Wii remote,
like
it's a
giveaway
backlight,
copies
just like the
of
touch
Brain
screen
Age that were
of the-
intended to be given away at Game
It
Developer
breaks
Conference
down
2005.
A barrier to non-gamers and lapsed gamers.
And this is still a point where Nintendo could talk so much about casual gaming and blue ocean markets and audience expansion without getting a reaction of vitriolic outrage from the hardcore gaming
Wonderful
public.
memories of games they used to play. The virtual console aspect of Wii will bring them together again.
Yeah, rest in peace, Virtual Console. Already
the Virtual Console
partially dead.
will also
Right now, you can
act
only
as a
add
leading
money to
rubber
Wii and
for a
to
simple,
Wii U and 3DS using Nintendo gift cards. You can no
Using
longer
the
use a
creative
credit card.
approach with the Wii remote
I already have my credits in there. I have to go ahead and
and the
start
business
nailing down my
model
final
of the Virtual
purchases
Console,
before it's too late.
maybe a game
Which will be-
like Tetris can be feasible once again.
Talking about, they're not calling it indie development yet, but he's really talking about what
In
became the
past
indie
20
development
years,
revolution through
as game
digital
systems
distribution.
Improved in functionality, there were also downsides.
Yeah.
Among these, the startup time before gameplay begins is growing longer and longer.
Very true.
I have been planning, developing, and playing games for a long time.
And by
I still
if
love
anyone's
all
curious,
of
I am
this.
playing Versus Pinball
But
on
these
Nintendo
days,
Switch
I am
using
busier
the Wii. I'm
than
using the Nintendo Switch Pro controller here. It's a nice
And
simple game I
if
can play while
have
also
to
giving
wait
commentary.
30 seconds or 40 seconds or more for a game to load. Often,
And if you need me to adjust to lower the volume on this
sometimes
audio
I
of the video we're watching, let me know.
cannot.
My microphone is effectively maxed out actually already.
And now that
So if
I
you need me to
know,
turn down the
I
volume or
can
turn it up to
instantly
balance it out, let
stop
me know.
Or start playing my DS by just closing or opening the top. I think I am spoiled.
And it's true.
Maybe this has happened to you.
Hey, bonus
too.
stage. Oh, yeah, we salvaged that
If
one.
Serious
Oh, no.
gamers find these delays frustrating. How can we ever expect the mass market to show more
Testing,
patience
testing,
than
testing,
we do?
testing, 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 testing. Okay, we might have turned down the
Unless we change,
audio a little
we
bit
can
for Mr.
never
Iwata.
increase the gameplay population. The Wii console will also help solve this problem.
I mean, look how much focus they're
can
placing
power
on the console
virtual
box
console
itself.
games
If they have
and
done this with the Wii U
applications like
reveal,
our Opera
we could be
web
living in a world
browser
where
saved to flash drive.
Wii U
Almost as
it
fast
was able
as
to
ever
overcome the
for
problems it
television.
still had,
In
and we
just
might not have had a
2
Wii U replacement until 2020-ish. Because honestly,
Then,
that's probably when
let
Wii
me describe one more hardware.
U otherwise would have been retired.
No game console, no matter how powerful, serves any purposes
Audio's
when
fine?
it
All
is
right.
Turned off.
Yeah, sometimes I use my... Because the E3 2003, 4, and 5, it was all the same video where I pre-balanced the audio. With this, we're going from video to video from the same source, which I just, several seconds ago in your time, dropped a link to in chat.
We will become the system that...
Hold on. It is a client. I've got to go off stream. I gotta pause. Hold on a second. Excuse me. Sorry. I gotta go. I'll be back in 5 or 6 minutes. Okay. Hey, I'm back. Thank you so much for dealing with that. That is the one call in all of the world that I, aside from one of my parents, that I would have stopped for, because I absolutely had to take that call, and it was very important and is related to the lifestyle that I live, which allows me to do stuff like this whenever I want. And because you know, yeah, it's now back to
console automatically enters standby mode without the fan
Yeah.
running, but still operating key functions and using about the same power of a miniature light bulb.
yeah, WeConnect 24 did not end up getting.
Importantly,
Well, it got used, but it makes it sound way more important than it ended up being,
constantly
frankly.
connected to the internet.
And I think part of that has to do with the fact that we did not have a hard drive, so there wasn't a lot of space to put in really heavy stuff on
a
it.
new weapon or vehicle or level to you, even while you sleep. For beginning gamers, just starting with something like Animal Crossing.
I know it says beginning gamers, but like Animal Crossing is like a really... This is before Animal Crossing has blown up into what it is now.
A friend has visited their village and left a message or a gift. And other developers will configure their games so that players will receive the game elements or information that the designer wishes. And programmers won't need to write a single line of code. Networking software is included in the hardware.
I mean, just the fact that he has to say something like that out loud, that the networking software is bundled with the Wii hardware,
at any time.
and the developers don't have to write their own network code, that wasn't necessarily something you could assume, especially from Nintendo, who at this time, and arguably even today, is kind of backwards on a lot of this internet connectivity stuff.
Finally, the most difficult job is to reach people who have never played before. To approach them, we need to remove several walls. New controllers and virtual consoles are important, but most important is software that these people will really want to play. These games would allow core gamers and non-gamers to happily and immediately compete against each other.
Yeah, and
What kind of game can do that? Among the examples you
the
will
announcement of
play
Wii Sports.
tomorrow is Wii Sports. This is a combination which will include tennis, golf, and baseball in one package.
And they ended up adding
It will be available
boxing
on launch day.
and golf. Wait, did he mention golf?
Beginning
Yeah, they
players
ended up
will
adding
find
boxing
control with the Wii remote, intuitive
and boxing and bowling, I think. Yeah.
Serious gamers will find it a surprising way to attempt something they already done many times before. Expanding the game audience with Wii means increasing the number of people in any household who are involved with games. Today,
Game over
there
again.
are people who play and people who do not. We will help destroy that wall between them.
And it's weird because more people are playing than
Regardless
ever,
of
and a higher
age,
percentage of people are playing it than
gender,
other, but that stigma and that
race.
barrier is somehow
Anyone
also
can
as strong as
instantly
ever. It's really
understand.
strange dichotomy. It's like it's so paradoxical.
We can provide anyone with fresh, new experiences.
Every day, there is something new for everyone, every day. This is our answer. Thank you very much.
Oh, I just got some really good news. Sorry if I'm just grinning like a silly person, but I got some really good news in that call.
3,000 of you watching here in the audience, and a lot more online. And we'd like nothing better to invite you all up on stage.
This is the
play.
AOL contest winner, I think.
While we can't do that for everyone,
Which I think is the first person, the last time AOL was culturally relevant in any way, shape, or form.
As you know, we've been running an online sweepstakes with our good friends at AOL.
Oh my gosh, the intersection between the Wii and AOL. What a two ships passing in the night intersection of Western civilization.
Mr. Miyamoto himself has chosen the winner at random, and he's put the name inside an envelope, just like it's always done.
And I did enter that contest, by the way.
Awards. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto with the announcement of the final sweepstakes winner.
That hatch on that stage is so cool. Like they continue to use this stage for E3 throughout the rest of their stage shows. I understand.
How we will play. Tennis, anyone? Control is simple and intuitive. Even your mom can play.
And play my mom did, and my grandma, and my nana, everybody.
I'll show you. Let me explain in Japanese. Toss up.
To serve, you just toss.
You can see the teleprompter behind him.
One hand.
You hit forehands.
Forehand.
Forehands, backhands.
Robin.
You can swing low to high to hit lobs.
Top spin.
Twist the remote as you're swinging for top spin
Hey,
or backspin.
Eli Naomi, have I said that
hopefully you'll keep
correctly?
it in bounds.
I miss Iwata. Yes, I do. He was what a shining star of a person to have been in this position of power at this time. Because typically people that are this nice don't get this far. Sorry, my apartment, I have to turn off my fan and my air conditioner to make it possible to...
Scott Dyer.
Scott Dyer.
Yeah, wonder what he's doing now to be the first member of the public to play Wii. Yeah, I don't know if you're here before. I was talking about how this contest, they talked about it on stage. There was being run along the contest to invite on stage to be the first to play Wii was done in conjunction with AOL, and just like even by 2006, looking back, like AOL, I didn't think this at the time, but looking back, like AOL, like is so okay. Just Naomi will do it, like me, right? I'm Super Train Station H here on Twitch. Just H will do it. Though I don't have my my custom button nearby. Well, I do have my old H-Train pins, but
you can kick the, you know.
Excuse me.
Yes, of course. That is my job.
Please go away. I'm trying.
Looks like we've got Mr. Iwata both here on stage.
There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just H. And the whole screen name thing, it's... Yeah, so what we have here is what eventually became Mii's, and it's so interesting seeing how different these are than the final versions of them.
And there's our winner.
Okay.
So we've got Mr. Miyamoto and his partner on the left side, and we've got Reggie and Mr. Iwata.
Yeah, they don't have a custom Mii for him. They don't have. I don't think they have the means to just make these on the fly yet. That's something they developed between now and September when they revealed the whole Wii channel system, the concept of Mii's. They weren't called Mii's here, but this is the beginning of what became Mii's, these custom avatars to look like... Now, I saw them playing this the night before like this was
Our
May
here can make a comeback.
9th, 2006. On the night of May 5th, no, the night of May 8th, I saw them playing this when they were rehearsing E3 because I saw them when they were testing the satellite feed at the Nintendo World Store. And I have the only existing footage, I was showing this right before this, the only existing footage of the rehearsals were... No, I didn't have footage of them playing Wii Tennis on stage.
Oh, very good.
You know, I would have thought you'd have a little more power in that.
But I did have footage of the of them standing on stage, practicing their presentations and their speeches and everything. Wearing different clothing, wearing visible mics. It's very interesting.
Here we go.
Okay, it's your
Very
side.
interesting moment that I ended up catching accidentally by sheer chance. I have the only existing footage of this rehearsal for this, but I wasn't able to leak it online that night before because I had a laptop, but it was laptops didn't most laptops. You had a very high-end laptop in 2006. If you had Wi-Fi built into it, I did not have Wi-Fi on my laptop, and even if I did, Wi-Fi wasn't necessarily going to be available on 48th Street in Rockefeller Center, where I was camped out at the time, waiting to get into the satellite viewing of the press conference.
What a great match. Now, of course, Scott got his chance on stage here today, but all of you are going to be able to play tennis tomorrow on the show floor. Just be sure to wear some loose clothing so you can really get into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Let's face it, the bottom line of every E3 is simple. What's hot
All right.
and what's not.
Bounce that on up.
Here's our take. What's hot is the feel of the game.
All right, so
The
we're almost
look
at the end
is
of this.
secondary.
And I'm going to go
What's
off
hot
camera,
is
but
the
I'm not
next
leaving the
leap,
stream.
Not
I'm
just a
going to go
small
off
step.
camera just
It's
so I can
hot if it's
eat, and my
disruptive.
microphone's set so that my
It's not if it's predictable.
eating sounds won't pick up on the
The
mic.
future of our industry
And
is
what I have
inclusion,
after this, I'll
not
explain
exclusion.
when it ends.
It's about the heat of emotion, not the chill of technology. We know that the future is right here. We and the DS represent the same thing, risk.
And this is this era
Risk
from
allows
GameCube up until
progress.
3DS and Wii U,
We're a
where the
company that
handheld and
doesn't
console
run
came out in
from
pairs.
risk. We run
Like
to it.
GBA and GameCube had that
Change
synergy, that
is
co-design
good.
thing. DS and Wii had that
We were the
co-design thing.
disruptor
Wii U and
20
3DS
years
had that
ago,
co-design
and
thing.
we still
Now
are
they've
today.
sort of merged into Switch.
DS is only the latest example. We will come next.
Nice double meaning there with the pronoun.
Every year, we hope you'll walk out of our media briefing saying, yeah, these guys are the hot story of the show.
And they were. They stole
know what?
E3 this year. Even with
Today, we're not
PlayStation
asking
3 and
that.
the emergence of HD gaming.
Of course,
And
we
Sony
hope
put on
you
a
like
strong
what
show
we've
this
seen
year,
so
too.
far.
Actually, with their press
But in
conference was a
reality,
disaster.
We also know that
I have this
seeing
theory that
is
the
just an
the
impression.
company that has the most
is
to
believing.
lose tends to have the best E3.
Thank you all.
Nintendo had to
Look
prove
forward to
themselves
seeing
again
you
after
on our show
GameCube.
floor tomorrow.
Sony was on top of the world with PS2, and they stumbled with their press conference for PS3. Now, let's see here. Now. Okay, good. Now, what I'm showing here, and I'm going to explain, is the E3 2006 Nintendo DS. I explain it myself in the video.
What I have here
So
today
this is where I'm
might
going to go
be the
off
rarest
camera
Nintendo DS
to get my
ever
food
made.
ready.
In fact, it may be completely unique, maybe absolutely one of a kind. This is the Nintendo DS. I'm going to put it on the bed here. This is the E3 2006 Nintendo DS, which was made to commemorate the E3 2006 Nintendo press briefing where they revealed the Wii for the first time to the public. Now, only a few hundred of these are made. You had to attend the live satellite broadcast, the E3 press show, to get one of these, but they didn't tell you that they were going to have these. What they did, you brought your Nintendo DS. If you had it, you could have left it there, and they engraved it for you with a special machine with this custom engraving with the E3 logo, Nintendo World New York, and the date 5906.
Hey, Naomi. That's really cool. I actually love when... I actually love when my viewers are telling me what they're eating and what they're doing while they're watching my stream. I'm about to get a little microwave bowl of chili, and I'll be right back as I continue explaining the E3 2006 Special Edition Nintendo DS. So I'll be back in a minute.
You engrave it, and then they'd call you later, and you could come back and pick it up. Well, no one knew that they were going to do this, so they all brought their old battered up DSs. No one had a new DS to give. And I had a black DS, which they only sold in Japan, and they only sold it at retail at Nintendo World. So I happened to have a black Nintendo DS. I left my DS with them, and it was, sort of old and worn by then. But what happened was the machine there was some kind of mistake, and they messed up my old DS. They replaced it with a brand new black DS with the E3 engraving on it. So this might be the only brand new Nintendo DS in mint condition to have this special engraving on it. As you can see, the screens, I've never used this once. As soon as I got this, I just put it back in the box. There's the box there. It's the Japanese packaging. I put it right back in the box, and I never used this. Now, I don't. Maybe
the
some
food
other
is in the
DSs
microwave.
got messed up
Yeah,
by this engraving.
I still have my original
and a few other people
N64
got new
and my
DSs,
Wii. I actually have all the
replacement
systems I got, and then
But this is the only one I know
NES I
of
have
that
is from a friend
I
who owned it back in the
might be only
80s and
black
90s.
DS with this engraving.
So,
And it's
actually, let me
even if it
actually
is,
listen to
there
what
are
I'm
a few
saying at
other
this point.
black. This is really, really rare. You're probably not gonna find a mint condition DS with this.
As far as I
engraving on
know,
eBay.
this system is unique.
5906. I skipped my SAT to attend that event on that day. It was an absolutely unique event.
Now, for context sake, I was already accepted into the college of my choice and attending at the time. So, I was taking an additional SAT in case I wanted to... Well, the college I went into did need an SAT score. And I was considering going to another college who did need an SAT score. And it's I'm already in the college I want, so I'll just get my SAT. So I got to brag, I skipped my SAT to... that wasn't quite the case.
Slept overnight.
Technically.
I traveled 50 miles in a car. I slept in front of Nintendo World in my car to attend this event. It was like the second coming of Nintendo, practically, going from GameCube, where a lot of, industry sources suggest that it might even be their last system, because it, didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations. And, there are hundreds of people at this event. It was like the Woodstock of Nintendo.
I would still say that's true now.
It'll never be another event like that again. So it's really cool that Nintendo recognized this and made a special DS just for that one day. And it was the DS of the people who brought their systems there. So, it's really unique. They never sold this retail that I know of. So here it is, a possibly one-of-a-kind Nintendo DS. Thanks for watching.
Alright, so... So what this is, I'm going to explain within the video itself what this is, so that's why I don't have to talk too much, because I basically do all the talking for it. This was this was a rumor that came out right before the press conference the smaller press conference that revealed the final launch info for the Wii, that revealed the Wii channel menu. I explain all this. This video is only a year and change old, actually. So I don't have to talk too much, so it's a good chance for me to eat some food. And I still have a few hours of press conferences left to cover. So that's why I'll go off camera for this. But so I'll let my future self from barely a year ago when I put out this video explain. But it was the first one of the first rumor leaks of someone supposedly finding a leaked script of a Nintendo press conference in Reggie's wastebasket at Nintendo. So I'll get started on that, and I'll go off camera and just dump in an artistic representation of me as one of my characters from my stories that Kita Space Cat did for me. I'm not a VTuber or anything like that, but it's just this seemed better than just. I don't want to be on camera eating. I know some people don't like that, so I have my mic settings so that you won't pick up on me eating when I talk. It's just me. You don't hear me going blah 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 blah. And then you don't have to see me eat either. So that's just a solution for that without just having a blank space there. So I will start the video and I'll be back. And I'm still live. I just have to go get my food out the microwave of my apartment. So. At some point we knew that on September 14th, 2006, Nintendo was going to do some kind of event giving the final details for the price, the launch lineup, and any remaining unannounced features of the console. This was the very first leak of a hoax like this that I can remember. Someone claimed to have was working, I think the story was they were working as a janitor at Nintendo of America headquarters, and they went through, when they were cleaning Reggie's office, Reggie left a draft of his script for the presentation, and he printed it up, crumpled it up, and threw it in a wastebasket, and the janitor found it and released it to the internet. And this was not a joke. At the time, this was one of the first times, as the years went on, fake PDFs with or fake crumpled up pieces of paper that said, Nintendo E3 confidential, with Nintendo logos and big confidential watermarks over it. People were printing things like that and making lists of fake game titles, and it just became a joke. But this is one of the first times a hoax of that type had been done. And I remember this made quite a splash on the official Nintendo of America forums. Nintendo used to have an official fan forum where people would just come and talk about Nintendo and video games. I was so amused that I actually saved these JPEGs, and somehow throughout years of moving between hard drives and moving between.
Hey, I'm just pausing this to say that I just got back. I found that the chili exploded in the microwave, so I had to stop and clean that immediately, because if I let it harden, I was never going to be able to get that out. So I'm back now, and we'll continue with me talking about this old hoax.
Computers, somehow I ended up having.
And after this, we're going to watch Nintendo's E3 2007 and 2008 press conferences in their entirety.
Somewhere in my computer, I only dug them up. I really looked. I just looked at it for the first. Just glanced at it. I was like, "Oh, it's this." I haven't seen this in about literally 14 years. I'm a year shy from this being 15 years old. The release of the Wii, believe it or not, in 2020. So I didn't read much of it. I want to do a sort of a fresh reading of it with you, and so let's see. Let's take a look at this. The leaked script for the Nintendo's Wii presentation. And looking up here, we have Nintendo racetrack logo at the top. Reginald Fils-Aimé, President and Chief Operating Officer, because before he was the Vice President of Sales and Marketing, he had just gotten promoted right before or right after E3. And just looking at the heading, we see Nintendo of America Public Relations 1-800-255-3700, which is the first red flag. If anyone knows anything about Nintendo, you don't have to know. It's just such a basic. 255-3700 has been Nintendo's consumer support number. It's their tech support number if your system isn't working right and you need to send it in for repairs or something like that. That's been Nintendo's tech support number since the 1980s. It has not changed. It was on the back of every Game Boy and the back of every Super NES and N64, and I think even the GameCube had that number on there in North America. And they decided to just put the 800 public consumer service number as on the header for this thing that probably shouldn't be. Why would there even be a number for public relations? This wouldn't be seen by anyone except for Reggie, because he's the one who's delivering this copy. So we have our first red flag before we even got into the actual text of this. Concept, September 14th. Can I do my best Reggie impersonation here? I'm really honored to be here this morning as the new President and Chief Operating Officer for Nintendo of America. What I hope to do today is to give you a very different type of presentation than what you're used to. One through the perspective of both the consumer and the developer. Just the writing that's not how Reggie writes. It's very clunky kind of writing. Okay, let me just keep going. The first thing I want to do is to step back for a moment and talk a little bit about the strategy Nintendo's been following lately. Step back for a moment and talk a little bit about this. Writing is so not professional writing. What are we doing? Just for context, my professional background is in writing in English and copywriting and stuff like that, so that's why I talk so much about the writing. Doing, and why are we doing it? Secondly, I'd like to talk about our key initiatives for this year going into the holidays with Nintendo DS and Nintendo Wii. Red flag. If you didn't already know this was fake, just the fact that it says Nintendo Wii should clue you in that this is not official Nintendo copywriting. Nintendo never calls the system Nintendo Wii. The product's official name is Wii. You will never find any video of Reggie, Miyamoto, Satoru Iwata, any official person from Nintendo just calling the Nintendo's fifth system the Nintendo Wii. Yes, many people call it that, but that is not the product's name. They never call it Nintendo Wii. There is no official material from Nintendo, written material, in advertising, in printed materials. Nintendo never calls the system Nintendo Wii. Nintendo people are trained not to call it that. There is an official style guide of how to describe the products and how to use the trademarks in spoken language and when writing copy. It specifically says do not call it, the product's name is Wii. It is not Nintendo Wii. So once again, we have an obvious amateur writing this. I'd like to talk about our key initiatives for the year going into the holidays with Nintendo DS and Nintendo Wii, as well as our first quarter of next year. The third part will be all about Nintendo DS, what's coming for the end of the year, and what's coming next. Finally, we will be focusing on Nintendo Wii only. When will I be able to get this awesome device? How much do I need to pay for it? And what will I be able to buy at launch? Oh yeah, and what about that last secret we've been holding back for so long? There's no last secret we've been holding back for so long. This is just fantasy at this point. As you can see, there's a lot to talk about and to explain. So let's start with a simple question to introduce the first subject of today. A few months back, I talked at the DICE Summit conference about a book called Blue Ocean Strategies. By the way, I do have a copy of Blue Ocean Strategy that is actually signed by Reggie Fils-Aimé. He signed it for me personally. And the book is not Blue Ocean Strategies. It is called Blue Ocean Strategy. He did not even look up the name of the book that he's quoting here. So, has anyone out there in the audience read this book yet? For the people that haven't read it yet, it's all about a unique marketing strategy which inspired us at Nintendo. The thought being, if all you do is focus on your competition, it's like sharks and blood and water, constantly going at each other with only the same amount of meat. Take a wider view. Look at broader opportunities out there in your marketplace. This marketing approach has been a key element for Nintendo DS, and it's been proven to work. For many years, our industry has been going down. For many years, our industry has been going down. Bad copy, as we already established. However, this has changed with Nintendo DS, and will change with our upcoming Nintendo Wii. Thanks to awesome software from both first and third-party developers, sales are skyrocketing across the world. Just look at the picture behind me. In every continent in the world, DS is outselling PSP with big numbers. In Japan, Nintendo DS hardware sells every week more than all the other game consoles combined. Even the so-called next-generation console, Xbox 360 from Microsoft, fails to even come close to Nintendo DS hardware sales, not to mention the software sales. No other consoles in the world have sold so many software titles in such a short amount of time as Nintendo DS is currently doing. I'm happy to announce today that more than 35 Nintendo DS titles has broken the 1 million mark of sales. I am happy to announce today more than 35 million Nintendo DS titles has broken the 1 million mark of sales. This is such bad writing. Strunk and White, please forgive me for uttering this garbage. I'm struggling to keep a straight face and read this doing my best Reggie impersonation, but this is really hard to read with a straight face, so excuse me. Now, we're planning to continue this trend with Nintendo DS, and starting this trend with our upcoming Nintendo Wii console. For Nintendo DS, we expect to break the 25 million mark by the end of our financial year, which ends on March 31st, 2007. And going. This entire paragraph is just a fan fantasy. Yes, they did use charts, especially back then during E3, to boast about their sales in any way they could spin it, even if they weren't, doing that great. But the writing here is just pure like fanboy fantasy here. Like Nintendo would not write something like this. Now, how do we plan to continue this trend with Nintendo DS? I can announce today that more than 150 new titles will ship here in the United States between now and December 31st, of which 14 titles will be from Nintendo. Titles like The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass and Metroid Dread will maintain, if not boost, sales. Nintendo DS Metroid Dread Conference, point 17.
Mind you, I filmed this maybe 3 or 4 months before they actually announced Metroid Dread for Nintendo Switch, which was within a week or two of being a year ago now. So it was interesting. If I had only waited a couple more weeks to make this video, I would have had some interesting comments there, but go on.
0.17 minutes, so I guess that's 17 seconds? That's weird. So what these are cues for, I guess, the visuals going on some kind of big screen that's behind Reggie on the stage. Yes, you've heard me right. A brand new Metroid adventure is in the works. This new 2D adventure game with 3D visuals will be in your hands by the end of this year. You people will be able to test out these great games later on our show floor together with many, many more previously unannounced titles from both first, second, and third-party developers. Games like Mario Party Touch Time and I can't. Games like Mario Party Touch Time and Wario World Dollar Safari from Nintendo. Geist Stories from Retro Studios. Okay, Geist Stories from Retro Studios. Talking about a sequel to Geist, but he doesn't know how to punctuate properly. He's using the apostrophe S for pluralizing these words, and instead he's creating the possessive. That's really bad. That's really, really bad. That's no. This is really bad writing right here. Geist Stories from Retro Studios and Metal Gear Dark Snakes from Konami will all be playable tomorrow on the show floor, with many other upcoming games for Nintendo DS. Now, they're talking about a show floor. As far as I understand, there might have been playable Wii games at this presentation. I'm not sure. I'll have to do my research on that. But they're discussing... the person writing this is writing this like he's writing for an E3 presentation. And plus, why would there be so many ready-to-go games for 2000, the rest of 2006 that weren't announced at E3 2004? That would have been the time they announced those games. So this is really, really fantasy territory here. Nintendo DS Preview Conference, 3.07 minutes. The last game you just saw was Tony Hawk Downhill Jam from Activision. You people will be able to test out those great games later. That is such... Yes, you people will be able to. They just say you'll be able to test out these great games later on our show. I don't have to go into detail. The writing is just atrocious. Excuse me, I have a background in writing. I take this really personally. But it just makes it all the funnier, so let's keep going. The last game you just saw was Tony Hawk Downhill Jam from Activision. Last year, Activision was the first third-party developer to use the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection feature for their Tony Hawk American Skateland game on Nintendo DS. A brand new feature for Nintendo DS was introduced. Free online gameplay for everyone around the globe. Now we're about to unveil a new gameplay feature. Tony Hawk Downhill Jam will be the first third-party title to use this feature, together with Mario Party Touch Time for Nintendo. A new add-on cartridge, which can be placed in the GBA slot of the Nintendo DS, will feature brand new gyroscope technology. Okay, as far as fantasy goes, that's relatively grounded. This new gyroscope feature is more precise compared to the gyroscope controller in the WarioWare series on GBA. You could use this feature to control your game without touching a button on your Nintendo DS. Simply move or tilt the DS left or right to move, or shake a bit to perform a jump in Tony Hawk Downhill Jam. Yeah, okay. To demonstrate this feature, I'd like to introduce some of our good friends at Activision, which are with us here today. Good gravy. To show us the simplicity of this gyroscope technology. Now, just thinking, aside from the fact that this is pure fantasy here, just speculating, if they were to announce a cartridge like this, they would have to. I would hope they would have to probably make two versions, because if they made this with the original model DS in mind, the Nintendo DS Lite was already released globally by this point, and Game Boy Advance cartridges on the DS Lite stick out outside of the system to the point where they had a dummy cartridge to keep in the DS Lite to protect from dust. So they'd probably have to have two different versions of this gyroscope cartridge that would go in the GBA slot. Just talking about it here. Okay, now let's keep going. In February next year, people from around the world will be able to battle with their Pokemon against each other. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and Pokemon here is written without the accented E, so even for internal materials, this is obviously fake. They would almost certainly use the accented E when writing Pokemon inside it when an official Nintendo copy, even if it's not being seen by the public. Anyway, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are the best. They would probably be described as Pokemon Diamond version and Pokemon Pearl version in an official copy. They're just saying Pokemon Diamond and Pearl the way like a casual person on the street would, like a fan would. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are the best Pokemon RPG games to date, and combined with online functionality, are must-have for every DS owner. Are must-have for every DS owner, not are a must-have, just are must-have for every DS owner. At the show floor, not on the I'm not grading this. I'm not this guy's English teacher. At the show floor, you will be able to try out the online functionality of these titles. Prepare for true online leagues, as this game will support up to 16 players online. Which I never played Diamond and Pearl, but I'm pretty sure that didn't happen even up into modern Pokemon games. Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver had a weird room where you would walk around blowing party poppers at each other and stuff like that. I don't know if that was 16 players, but as far as Pokemon battles, I don't think there was ever 16-player tournament leagues or anything like that. This is what's in store for Nintendo DS for the next few months. Isn't it exciting?
Isn't it exciting?
So what do we have in store for Nintendo Wii? When will you be able to buy it, and how much will it cost? There's a good reason we've kept this information a secret for so long. Like I've said before, we at Nintendo are trying to disrupt the market in many different ways. We're looking for new consumers by introducing new forms of gameplay. So, what has this got to do with the launch, you ask? Well, we're going to have a very
I'm finished eating,
launch.
so I'll be back on
just as
on camera in a moment.
Very unique. Unique is an absolute. Unique is an absolute. Either something is unique or it is not. It is not very unique. It is not kind of unique. It is either unique or it is not. It is an absolute. Moving on, we have a very unique launch. Something which hasn't been done before in our industry. I think I could explain it with a few words. We're going to pull off a sort of, parentheses, pull Apple out of pocket launch. In other words, within a few weeks, almost every continent in the world will be playing on their Wii console. Starting this coming Monday, we will be shipping 1.5 million units in the United States, 1.5 million units in Japan, and 1 million units in Europe. The Nintendo Wii console will go on sale in all three of the
Oh boy. I'm back.
The Nintendo Wii console will go on sale all three of the continents.
on October 2nd.
Yeah.
The real date was November 21st, just so you know. There will be 2 colors available on launch, a white model and a black model.
Hey, I'm back.
How much will consumers need to pay for it?
Just like to thank my
As we want to
artists
break a
there for
barrier
providing that
and expand our market,
pseudo
the package will be priced at an
pseudo
affordable
PNG tuber.
$175.
Apple
Yeah, the
juice
real
here.
one was $250. People were assuming it would be $200 just because, unadjusted for inflation, the GameCube launched at $200 and the N64 launched at $200 and the Super Nintendo launched at $200. So people assumed the Wii was going to be $200. When it was announced at $250, people were saying Nintendo is screwed. For only $50 more, you can get a 360. You know, this is the death of Nintendo. What are they thinking? How dare they overprice for this weak little system? Little did they know. Well, how things would turn out. But yes, according to this fake leak,
again.
It was in Reggie's wastebasket. It will be priced at $175 in the United States.
Usually I don't need my glasses
yen
to see, but I
in
like
Japan,
I like taking my glasses off when I eat.
€175
I don't
in
know
Europe.
why. It's just
The
annoying.
consumer will get a lot of value for this
eat
price.
with my glasses on, 'cause
Why
when
would
I
they
take
announce
the
the
spoon with the
international
hot
prices
food, like, it
at
fogs
this,
up my
this
glasses.
U.S.-based conference?
But most of the other times I wear them.
The consumer will get a lot of value for this price. Every package will include 1 white or black Wii console, 1 Wii remote, 1 nunchuck device. Nunchuck being spelled... Nun and chuck are two words. Nunchuck. 1 classic controller, a free copy of Wii Sports, which has a wide library of popular sports, built-in Wii Connect 24 service. Not built-in, build-in Wii Connect 24 service, which, by the way, was used for next to nothing on the actual console. Very few things even use the Wii 24 service. A voucher of 1,000 coins, which can be used to download games from the Wii Virtual Console service. Yeah, that was and coins weren't even the actual shop currency. It was Wii points in the actual Wii shop channel. And of course, I'm not going to mention Wii channels because that was announced at the actual conference, and this is pure fantasy made beforehand. Yeah, a free copy of Wii Sports, a Wii remote, 1 nunchuck device, 1 classic controller, a free copy of Wii Sports, which has a wide library of popular sports, built-in Wii Connect 24 service, a voucher of 1,000 coins, which can be used to download games from the Virtual Console service, built-in web browser from Opera to surf the internet, which support all the latest standards. Which support, not which supports. And internet is not a proper noun, but here it is capitalized. Surf the internet, which support all the latest standards, including AJAX support. I don't even know what AJAX is. I just know if anything other than whatever HomestarRunner.com was using, very few things were supported on the Wii browser in terms of being web surfing compatibility. A power supply, and of course, an AV cable. For a limited time only, every package will also include a remake of the game Duck Hunt on a 512 megabyte SD card. Yeah, Duck Hunt was not remade until the Wii U. So,
by the way, that's Bubbles from Clue Clue Land that's rescuing my ball there.
There will also
in my
be
pinball
a wide
game that I'm
range of
playing this winter.
accessories.
Hey, Eli,
at launch.
Naomi, you're heading out
For a low price.
Yeah,
people
Ajax
can
is
buy
a
an
bathroom
add-on,
cleaner. I don't
which
think
enables
that's the only
Wii
thing that
to
makes
play
sense.
DVDs.
Hey, Naomi,
DVD
thanks for dropping in,
apostrophe S, so
and thanks for
DVD in the
the e-hug.
possessive
I'll see you
form.
around later. Thanks for dropping by into the stream, and
There
glad you
was
enjoyed.
an E3 2005.
Thanks
there
for spending
was
part of your Saturday with me.
Satoru Iwata announced that there would be some kind of internal attachment that you could install into the Wii that would let it play DVDs. That never materialized, nor is there any place inside the Wii where something like that could possibly fit.
Owners can also choose a small internal attachment to play movies and other DVD contents.
I forgot I made that. I forgot I made that.
That was never mentioned after E3 2005.
I forgot I
he's
made that.
mentioning something that never came to fruition that was never mentioned since E3 2005. Controller add-ons will be available with the games that use them. Thanks for nothing. That's basically like that's no real information there at all. Consumers will be able to buy a gun add-on and wheel add-on for a low price as standard too. Consumers will be able to buy a gun add-on and a wheel add-on
for a low price as standard too. If it doesn't come with the system, it's not standard. And they would not call it a gun add-on. Even in the NES era, Nintendo never called the Zapper a gun. They called it a Zapper. And when they announced the Wii Zapper, I think it was E3 2007, they made sure never to say the word shoot or gun.
The Wii Zapper. The Wii Zapper whole test zap. The Wii Zapper per zap a zombie. The Wii Zapper. Wii Zapper moves. They are Wii Zapper plans.
Man.
Wii Zapper project. The Wii Zapper. You're going to give those kidnapping
I
and
forgot. I'm
bombing
glad I made this.
terrorists
I forgot I made this.
exactly what they deserve. A good, healthy zap.
Once again, pure fanboy fantasy, not adhering to any of the Nintendo communication standards. Let's continue.
Yeah, I'm glad I made that.
Now, what games will be available on launch?
This is the first time I've actually sat down and watched this video since I made it.
With as many games as Nintendo Wii will launch with. AAA titles like The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Metroid from Nintendo.
Yeah, and being ruthless, it's not
Red
about
Steel
being
from
mean.
Ubisoft.
It's just about seeing the clear line between what you have and what you want and just following that path with no regrets.
Just Metroid from Nintendo and
Paraphrasing
Red Steel
from Marco
Ubisoft
from Animorphs
will be available on launch, together with 19 other titles. This makes a total of 21 games on launch day. Before the end of our financial year, we'd expect to have 35 more brand new titles for Nintendo Wii. Why brand new? I'm once again not a professional writing this. I may have mentioned that before. Including a new adventure for Kid Icarus. A new adventure for Kid Icarus. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see where he's going with this. At Nintendo Wii Launch Titles Conference, and I guess they show the Kid Icarus trailer here. After so many years, he's finally back and ready to spread love better than ever before on Nintendo Wii. Ready to spread love better than ever before. That's not what... This person never played Kid Icarus. I think they're assuming that... Okay, let's keep going. Fans have been asking for the sequel for such a long time, and with Nintendo Wii, there's been no better time to set Kid Icarus back on track, just as Retro Studios did with Metroid. Okay, he seems to be referring to Pit as Kid Icarus. So this is someone who's never even played Kid Icarus. He just knows that it exists and thinks he's like Cupid? Okay.
Yeah, they must have thought that Kid Icarus was like Cupid or something. That's the only explanation I could think of.
In the United States and Japan, with Europe following in the begin of April. In the begin of April. Wowie. Woo! Nintendo Disaster Day of Crisis Conference. Okay.
But what happens if the bad guy is Mother Nature?
I forgot I edited this stuff in.
Survive or not, it's your call in Disaster Day of Crisis. Come feel the panic and bring the catastrophe under your control.
And from what I heard, I don't know the full details, apparently Reggie personally was so unimpressed with Project Day of Crisis that he vetoed the game coming, or had a role in vetoing the game coming to North America. I don't know how true that is or not, but that's just something I heard at some point. Do your own homework on that. So, Disaster Day of Crisis, 0.21 minutes. Another game we will ship sometime in January will be Disaster Day of Crisis. So far, we've not revealed much about this title, but with Mr. Miyamoto heavily involved in this project, there's not much to worry about. I don't think Miyamoto worked on it at all, but we'll continue. We've had a good reason to keep information on this title close to our chest. As we've said back at E3, we have one more big secret to reveal.
No, they did not say that at E3. We just watched it.
Will introduce this feature. Nintendo Wii will offer many gameplay features which will expand the experience for the gamer. However, most of the features we revealed mostly improve the experience for the casual and non-gamers. Most of the features we revealed mostly improved. Please, get Elements of Style by Strunk and White. Please read this, whoever you are, 15 years later. I hope you're a better writer by now. It's probably a kid who wrote this, so I'm not going to be too hard on them. But if they were a kid then, they almost have to be an adult now. So, but what about the hardcore gamers? Of course, the hardcores will enjoy all the benefits of the new controller. But what will convince them to buy a Nintendo Wii?
This is the book I'm talking about. Elements of Style.
Ago,
I usually have it within arm's reach, but I don't. I move my work stuff away from my desk while I'm streaming.
Only minutes after he announced the codename, speculation started everywhere what could revolutionize our game industry. Many people agree that there has never been so much speculation surrounding a games console as there have been for Nintendo Wii. Only days before our E3 show in 2005, an amazing trailer was put online made by a fan called Pablo Del Monte of how he thought Nintendo Revolution would look. After E3 2005, rumors started to dug up about this video. Oh boy. About this video in relation to our show. I've quoted a few comments from the Nintendo boards behind me on the screen. Many people became disappointed when we confirmed the video to be fake, or at least not made by Nintendo. Mr. Iwata once said that he hoped with Nintendo Wii, the image of a gamer sitting behind his TV with a controller in his hands, playing a game off or online, would change forever. So far, we've showed a new controller, a unique online service with the ability to surf the web. But what about that TV? What could be changed about the TV? HD technology, you say? There's so little benefit in HD technology at this time, as less than 30% of all the people around the world own one. So in order to
Nintendo actually did
HD
think like that
technology,
at
you
the
need to
time.
have an HD-ready TV, which you need to buy if you don't own one yet. Not to mention, there isn't even one standard yet. What if you have an HD-ready TV that only supports 720p, but the game goes up to 1080i?
That's
or
not
even
a problem.
1080p?
That's just not a problem.
Our industry can't ask such high investments from our consumers.
That's just flat out not a
For
problem.
this reason, we decided
But whatever.
not to support HD this generation, but to offer an economical alternative which improves the experience of a gamer a lot more.
You know, it's kind of funny. I just want to pause here. The logic behind the fake Reggie and this fake leak is the logic here is actually similar to the logic that Sony had when they put out that PlayStation 3D monitor, when they really wanted to push 3D as part of PlayStation 3, and they knew 3D TVs were expensive, so they made a small 3D monitor that you could buy at a relatively affordable price as a way to get into 3D and help make it worthwhile for developers to make 3D games on PlayStation 3. But it is very hard for something like Kinect out, actually, even though it has a reputation of being a failure in the sense that they want to Kinect to be standard going forward, but as in terms of sales, Kinect was very successful. In terms of sales, the Wii Remote, the Wii Motion Plus was successful, the Wii Balance Board, but in general, it's very hard to make something have widespread adoption that's not included with the de facto day one package of the system.
Even though that
Anyway.
fan-made video was fake, he wasn't far off what Nintendo has in development. for many
People are
years
still
already.
hurting because they chose beta.
Yes.
Hey, Gush
Our
on
last
Games, how are we
secret has
doing?
to do with how you
Okay,
look
just
at
explain
games.
what's happening real quick. We started with E3 2003. We watched up through E3 2006. And right now we're covering something that happened between E3 2006 and E3 2007. Right before the reveal of the final launch information for Wii, there was the first ever, as far as I'm aware, the first ever fake leak of an alleged, scans of a script for the presentation that were stolen by a janitor from Reggie's office at NOA headquarters. And I found these on my computer 15 years later, and I'm going through, this is a video of me a little more than a year ago going through reading this fake leak. And after this, we're going to go into E3 2007.
How you experience them.
That's what's going on
We've been
right
holding
now.
back this announcement because we're afraid our
And
competitors
I'm playing
might copy
versus
this
pinball up in
idea.
the corner.
So to keep that risk as low as
Oh,
possible,
hold on.
we've
I
kept
got
a
it.
secret.
We got it.
And so
We got to see that again.
Games, how you experience them.
Now,
We've been
I forgot
holding
it.
back this announcement because we're afraid our competitors might copy this idea. So to keep that risk as low as
forgot I
possible,
put that in there.
we've kept it a secret until now.
And I don't even hold it
At
against
Nintendo,
Sony for making that controller.
we've
If
been
you're going to do a
developing
freehand motion
a
controller,
head-mounted display, HMD,
what else are you
for
possibly
5
going to
years
do?
now. Originally, it was planned to be released at the end of a GameCube's life cycle. GameCube isn't even capitalized. Good grief. To expand its lifetime for many years. However, while developing the early Nintendo Wii concept, we realized it would match the motion sensor technology much better. And one of the
offer a
things,
more complete
Gush on
experience.
Games, that I mentioned is the fact that Reggie in this fake script keeps calling the system Nintendo Wii is more than enough to prove that this is fake, because Nintendo never described the system as Nintendo Wii. They called it Wii. Sometimes they called it Wii by Nintendo. Sometimes they would say Nintendo's Wii. They never ever called it Nintendo Wii. They were specifically trained and instructed never to call it Nintendo Wii. In fact, the Nintendo Switch is the first home system. Sorry, I've got a sock here. It's a clean sock, but I have tough to turn my fan on, my fan off, my AC off in my apartment to do the stream because they're too loud. They pick up on the mic, so I had to wipe my forehead occasionally. Yeah, so the fact that he calls it Nintendo Wii alone is enough to prove that this is fake. I go into a lot of, because I'm familiar with some of the style guide stuff, the branding stuff, and some of the way you'd write in a corporate setting, that more than proves that this is just some random amateur. It's Nintendo Wii Disaster Day of Crisis Conference, 40 minutes. The first game that will make use of this helmet-mounted display. Oh, before it was a head-mounted display, now it's a helmet-mounted display. No, they specifically wanted to take Nintendo out of the name to try to make it
Day of Crisis,
not be to make it more appealing to people who don't have any connection with Nintendo.
The game will offer a level off gameplay and graphics.
And I see what you did there with the spelling.
Combined with
Gush
the
on Games.
helmet-mounted display, which will exceed any other game experience.
And I'm playing.
The graphics are not
versus
necessarily
pinball.
that much better compared to other Nintendo Wii games. But because of the HMD, you get the feeling that you're in the middle of the game. For example, you will really see the sea approach you. You are inside. This level of immersion into gameplay has never been achieved on a games console before. This HMD is an optional device, however, which means you don't need it in order to play Disaster Day of Crisis.
Which never even came out in North
We
America.
understand that such a device could confuse some gamers, which is why we've chosen to
Oh my gosh! I
This
forgot I
optional
edited that
gamers,
in there.
Which is why Crisis.
Listen, oh my
We
gosh!
understand that such a device could confuse some gamers, which is why we've chosen to
I
sell it
forgot.
separately.
I forgot this sardonic
This
editing.
optional device will be priced at $79 in the United States, 10,000 yen in Japan, and 79 euros in Europe. It will be available when Disaster Day of Crisis is launched. We expect many games to use this optional feature in the near future, as the technology will become available to our third-party developers by the end of this month. As you can see, Nintendo Wii will
I
truly
forgot the
expand
way
its
I
market
edited this.
and offer a unique gameplay experience which can't be found anywhere else. The low price point opens a wider audience than ever before. It's not the next generation of gaming, it's a new generation of gaming. With Nintendo Wii, a new game generation has been born. Everyone, whether you're young and old, can have fun with games on Wii. I thank you very much for your time. So there we have it. Nintendo was going to shadow drop VR for the original Wii, which was just a souped-up GameCube, essentially. Yeah, they're going to drop a $79 VR helmet for the Wii when the high-end 8th generation consoles like the PlayStation 4 that had an official VR helmet, and a lot of VR enthusiasts and people at the forefront of the industry were saying that the PlayStation 4 could really barely handle what it takes to provide a sufficient VR experience, but the doggone Wii, a standard definition console with specs that are basically a high-end console from 5 years earlier, is going to have a freaking virtual reality headset for it. Okay. So, there's not much more to say that I haven't already said. It is obviously a ridiculous joke. There were so many rumors that that Nintendo On video from right before E3 2005 started so many rumors about what the new Nintendo system would be like. There were people really up until this point who were still convinced that somehow the Nintendo On VR helmet hoax was a real Nintendo product. Nintendo was keeping it secret. There were people, even once the Wii was revealed, right before Tokyo Game Show, when they showed the Wii Remote, before we even knew what the Revolution controller was going to be, saying that, oh, it's going to be the VR headset. And then when they revealed the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, there were a lot of angry people
And people who had made all these rumors saying, oh, Nintendo, they changed the plans at the last second, so I couldn't back up my story. But trust me, I have real inside info. The helmet is still real. Yeah, so for the first crumpled up ball of paper in Reggie's garbage can type rumor, there you have it. I'm glad I hung on to this for so long so I could share it with you. And thank you very much for watching. My alter ego's been chopped. Oh yeah, this video is in widescreen. Yeah, I should have actually switched over to this.